So what happened in November was, this November, I was standing on stage in Silver Lake giving a speech, really angry, and I called for a march in Washington in 2010. Or 2012, depending on when we put stuff back on the ballot, because it's expensive, and we don't want to drain from local organizing. And so I get a call, and then 15,000 people cheering, yeah, let's march. I get a call from Cleve. What a stupid idea. We don't need a march in Washington. We don't need a march in Washington. It's going to drain California resources, et cetera, et cetera. I said, okay, you know, I mean, I said, you know what, we need to, I said, I'm so angry at this administration, and they're going to screw us. And so Cleve said, blah, 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 blah. I was invited to speak in Fresno. I go up to Fresno to speak. And then I see that Cleve and Tory and David Mitchell called for March for Marriage, which shouldn't be. March should be for everything. But all of a sudden, they say October 2009, we're going to march in 16 weeks. And it was the march that I initially called for. Why did they want to march in 16 weeks? I'll tell you why. And I'm going to talk about the Courage campaign now. Because the Democratic Party wants us to march in 16 weeks. Because we are a year and a half away from the next midterm election. And so, of course, if we rather we march in 2009, we have marched 4 times on the marches in Washington. We have drawn over 1 million people. The March for Women's Lives in 2004 drew 1.5 million people, and it doesn't move them at all. They don't care, the Democrats, because we don't have any teeth. We never make them pay for what they have done. And so I had, one of the reasons they don't want me here, and I don't come, you know, I don't come out of being a socialist. I always describe myself as a moderate Democrat, you know, because I think having total civil rights really is a moderate position. It doesn't seem like a radical position. But they called for this march because they want it in 2009. Because the march won't mean anything in 2009. Then what are you going to do? You're going to go back. I'm not saying you shouldn't go. But I'm going to tell you why it was co-opted, just like this meeting was co-opted. The reason that you don't want to march in 2009 and go back to organize congressional districts is what are we organizing for? For the Democrats again, the National Democratic Party? No. I have been a Democrat all of my life, and they have done nothing but screw us for the past 35 years. They made a deal in the 1970s with Steve Ondine, who helped form the Human Rights Campaign, that if they would take marriage off the table, they would pass every other right, every other bill. And so, and we had a bundle of bills, you know, the right to not to be killed, the right to work. There was about 5 or 6 things. So they took marriage off the table. That's why you haven't heard about it till now. They took it off the table. Can I go for another 5 minutes just to wind it up? Do you mind tonight?
Yes.
All right. Okay. They took marriage off the table, the Democrats. And what happened, then they convinced HRC, which I think is like Enron, great logo, no product. Yeah. But the logo was great, come on, that's fabulous. They convinced HRC to divide the rights. They said it'll be easier, this is in the 70s, if we can get to the right to work, and we'll do that, and we'll get to this. So they took all the rights off the table in the package and started just to work on it, or whatever the things were. And it is now 2009, and we do not have one civil right on a federal level. What the hell is wrong with us? They're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. Screwed us for the past 35 or 40 years. And when you get screwed without your consent, it's called rape. Yes! And we are like abused people. We want so much. Our weakness is our desire to be loved, by the way. That's our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Because the Democratic Party has done nothing but lie to us, including President Obama. And so I conducted a campaign. Well, of course, he lied to us. Don't tell me you're fiercely for gay rights and then turn around and send something to the Justice Department that compares our marriages to pedophiles and incest. What the hell is wrong with him? What is wrong with him? So the reason they wanted 2009 and the reason it was co-opted was essentially the Courage campaign wanted 2009. And I will tell you why. The Courage campaign, Rick Jacobs, I know you're taping this, and Rick, I'm talking to you, essentially goes around and organizes things in cities. And you sit around, it's kind of like after Scientology, and you tell each other the stories, which is very nice. I've been. How many of you read the Courage campaign? All right. You sit around and tell each other your personal stories. You really love each other. You cry and share your stuff. And then nothing. Nothing. It's not democratic. It's another arm of the Democratic Party. And they've gone and co-opted here, they didn't get too well here, but in Los Angeles and Sacramento, and then they're the progressive. Rick Jacobs has not passed one bill. I will say about Equality California, by the way, they have passed about 50 civil rights bills for gay people in Sacramento. And even though No on AIDS was a horribly run campaign, and I attacked them unmercifully in the press, once they started changing and hiring people of color and hiring organizers and doing the act, I stopped attacking. Because you don't kick somebody when they're down and they're trying to do the right thing. So I'm tired of the attacks on Equality California. They're trying to come around. 2010, yeah, we can have it in 2010, provided we can raise millions of dollars. This is a depression. It's not a recession. It's not a recession. So now we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people go to Washington, and when I say to them, but wait a minute, have we waited a year and a half before people could have saved up, maybe students could have saved up, you know, it makes sense. We could have had, we always talk about inclusion and racism and poverty, but the minute it's a March on Washington, oh yeah, we can save up $1,000 in 16 weeks. So you're going to have the March on Washington, Clinton and Tory and Rick, and the people essentially that have supported Obama and the Democratic Party. And I'm talking to the Democrats, not as a leftist. That's why I'm so bloody angry. I've been in bed with the party that has been fucking me for the past 35 years. Right? Huh? Right. So essentially that's what the thing is, and that's why you're going to be marching in 2009. And they don't want me to have anything to do with it. Why? Because I would tell the truth about why this was. Nobody's done it. You can get 200,000, 300,000 people. It's not a matter of how many people are on the mall. It's a matter of they're going to come back and organize congressional districts. That's what HRC does. So it's going to happen. It's co-op. Somebody said to me on the phone, well, why don't we have one next year? Oh yeah, it's so easy to raise $1 million and do it. All right. Why did that come from San Diego and why I wrote a letter that I didn't want to come down here was I've been trying to get down here for 6 months. And I have talked to leaders in your community, or they think they're leaders, or maybe they are leaders to get awards in your community, so please bring me down so that I can talk from a different point of view. And they haven't. And I know that there was some kind of mix-up now that you guys were planning this. I'm part of marriage equality, and I'm also part of the equality campaign, and I have a nonprofit called Equality California, the equality campaign. We don't pay anybody, but everybody gets a big title. But I had trouble speaking here because nobody wants to hear anything but the party line. And I just don't mean the Democratic Party. I mean, nobody wants to hear that you want to get on a protest, or you want to be independent, or you want a democratic movement, because clearly the March on Washington wasn't democratic. Nobody voted on the platform. We went to Fresno and they told us that it was a march. Nobody voted here if we hold it in 2010, whether we should or it wasn't discussed in Fresno. That's what the discussion was supposed to be. But it was run like the Courage campaign. We all sat around, we all had a facilitator, and we were controlled. So what I am saying to you is don't become part of anything that looks like they're progressive, where there's no democracy, where there's total control, and where it's from the top down. And that's the Courage campaign. I'm sorry that you guys did speak here the night before. I don't know if there was another evening available, but I did think because of what happened to me in the past 2 months, including what happened to me in Fresno, I was trying to be blocked from the press conference. I mean, there's been an ongoing thing, not because it's Robin Tyler, you know, I can get on stage, but because I think independently. I don't want you all to follow me. I want you to think for yourselves and follow your own gut. I trust you. I trust that you will make the right decision, and you need to trust you, and not let any gay establishment organization in San Diego tell you that you don't have the right to exist. Because the first thing we need to do is democratize our movement. And the second thing we need to do is support the Democratic Party. None of the demonstrations here belong to any one person or one organization. The marches are the people's marches. So many people didn't show up because of me. They showed up because of age, because of anger. I just happen to be the shit worker that helped produce them to make the thing. But this illusion, that it's do this or that. This march in Washington is undemocratic. It's going to drive 200,000 people. It's going to co-opt any march that we might have worked on because nobody can afford to go there 2 or 3 times. Maybe we'll do it again in 2012 and do it correctly. But here's the thing. This movement hasn't been radical enough. This movement pretends to be, you have HIC, you have NGLTS being co-opted, Equality California, yeah, they blew the money, $40 million, but they're changing. I've met with them. They're changing, and when we see change, then we don't condemn them, you know. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak.